In this video in our Sibelius 101 series, I'm going to talk about the layout and the appearance tab. Here we have an orchestral score which has a lot of staves to put onto one piece of paper. I go to this document setup menu with this little button here. This allows you to specify your page size, whether it's in portrait mode, top to bottom, landscape, left to right, what your width and height are. You can do it in inches. 8.5 by 11 paper I'm using. I like millimeters for the staff size and for the margin size. Hopefully your scores will never look quite that bad, but in case they do, or if the spacing is just a little weird between notes, go into Appearance, do Control A to select everything, and then reset note spacing. Did a pretty good job of resetting the note spacing, but the right hand side of the staff isn't where it should be. See that little square? It's very hard to see. Click on that and then go up to Reset Design and Position, and it puts it back to where it belongs. You can do that for anything. Let's say this is somehow gotten way down here. Reset the position and it puts it back to the default positions. You could mess up a line of lyrics, select them, reset position, puts it back where it should be. That's one of the appearance features. We respace it. And if you're importing files from either XML, Photoscore, or even MIDI, sometimes I find it advantageous to do the reset space above and below. Notice it changed, and then below, didn't see much of a change there. Then go through, do your spacing, note spacing, and then this little button here I find very helpful, Optimize, and watch the staff, the score. Didn't do much, you didn't see much. Let me zoom in a bit. Let me deliberately throw off some of these, and I'll show you how to do this in a second. See, we have way too much space here. So we highlight everything, optimize, and then watch the distance here. Back to where it's a nice even space. That's the optimize feature. You can also mess with your staves and system spacing. I do a ridiculous amount, you can see what happens there. In some orchestra scores, we have nothing in the timpani part on this score. Sometimes you may want to try and save paper and put more than one system on a score, or one system on a page. So we can highlight this and then go up here to Hide Empty Staves, and it's gone. You have a little dash line in here to indicate something was there. When you're working on a score this big, let's say you're just working with woodwinds, you can highlight the woodwind section and then focus on staves, and then only those staves show up in the score. That's very helpful for editing. You can also control click, shift there, or sorry, click there, control click here, control click there, and control click there, focus on staves, and just those staves show up. So it can be very handy. See how this MP here, down here, is colliding with the hairpin, and over here, that's because I turned magnetic layout off. I turn magnetic layout on, it adjusts everything accordingly. And if you have any collisions where Sibelius just doesn't know what to do, how to make the items show correctly, you can do Find Next and Find Previous. You also have an auto breaks feature. I find this is helpful when you're doing orchestral parts, and you can specify, have a system break every 4 measures, for example. So as you can see here, we now have 4 measures in a staff, in a system, and that little icon shows up to tell you. You may have noticed that over in the Cherry song, that it's in certain spots here. You can put these in manually as well as doing the auto brakes. I'm going to turn auto brakes off, and I'm going to put a deliberate brake right here. I'm going to select this bar line and then press system brake, and it puts that next measure on the next system. If I want to do a page break, I can select a bar line, let's say there, and then do page break, and now it's going to jump everything past that point to the next page. You can make a section into a system, like do this, select those, make into a system, just those are chosen. And you'll notice it left us one measure here. So you can do Control A and unlock format, and it'll get rid of all the changes you put into it manually. If you're doing instruments, like we have here, you'll notice in the Appearance tab, at the start we have full instrument names, and on next pages it has the abbreviations. And if we were doing multiple sections, you could specify full, short, or none. As I already mentioned, you can reset the score items to their default design and position. You can also reset the parts. And notice here we have I put in some eighth notes here, and I want to look at beaming groups here. I click on beaming groups, as groups the eighth notes as groups of 4, 2 of 4. But if I wanted to do something a little odd for some reason, as long as it adds up to 8, I could put any combination in here. And we end up with this crazy rhythm. It's nice if you're working in odd meters like 5/8 and 7/8 where it doesn't automatically do it. Let's say you imported a file, or better yet, from PhotoScore. I often get a lot of oddball rhythms like this because of the way PhotoScore reads it. So I select on that, go up to Beam Groups, use the default, and we get the default setting. When working with a large score like an orchestral score, it's typical to have things like tempos and other indications above not just the top staff, but also above staffs within the score, so that if you're looking down here you can see what's going on. So for that we go to the System Object Positions, and you can specify where in the score your various tempo texts and what have you. You can do up to 5 staffs. So let's add the violin to it, and down here in the violin part we have the tempo show up. After tweaking your document to get it exactly the way you want, you may want to export it out as a house style. You can see here some of the default ones that are built into Sibelius, as well as a few that I've put in here. I would suggest that you experiment with some of these by going to the New menu, picking a default document, loading it in, and then once you get it in, go to your Layout menu and import in one of the documents, one of the house styles. Try this Keyboard Helsinki one, watch the treble clef, and see what happens to it. Notice that it changed. It also will have changed other settings in here. And then once you've got some settings you like, tweak them around, you can export them out, and of course you've got all tons of options in these submenus to choose from. And I think that's about it. There's some more options to choose from there. That's pretty much it on layout and appearance. Next we're going to take a look at playback. Thanks for watching, and please comment or like these videos.